Welcome back to the Kyle Hartman Project. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm very, very excited that you could be with me today on this episode. Have a very special guest coming on the show. But first, I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. If this is your first time listening to the show, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a comment below. Follow me. Let's connect. I'll follow you. I want to network with all of you guys that listen to my show. And I want to see how we can bring value to this world. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Jehmi Ortiz. He's a very, very busy father, husband, and just all-around amazing guy who, over the past couple weeks, I've grown more and more excited to talk to, just learning about this guy. So bear with me for his introduction because he has done a lot. Thank you so much, Backpack Boy Beats, for letting me use the music that everybody hears on the podcast. If you guys haven't already, check out SoundCloud. I will post all the links below. You need to check out Backpack Boy Beats. Support him because he supports the show. So, Jehmi Ortiz is the VP of Global Business Operations for Jehmi, which I believe that's how it's pronounced. I will ask him later on. Now, Jehmi is a company that connects to the most popular local payment methods to ensure frictionless payment experiences for users in emerging markets. Now, I already mentioned that Jehmi's a father and a husband, and one of the big things that we're going to talk to Jehmi about is how he sort of balances such a busy lifestyle because he has a full-time career doing this. He's a father and a husband. But get a load of this. I'm going to take you back a little bit. So he was from New York. He now lives in Southern California with his family. He co-founded Atlus Online, which was the online gaming division of Atlus USA, which was acquired by Marvelous Entertainment. Okay, and so he has a master's in international business with a focus on Japan from the University of Hawaii and the Japan America Institute of Management Science. And so after he got his master's, he spent some time in Japan where he began to teach English. He taught English for 3 years in Japan. He interned there for a Japanese sports management firm in Tokyo. He also worked as a liaison with baseball players for the Japan Baseball Players Association. And he even, get this, he even played a little bit of semi-pro football there. He also has he successfully launched one of the first free-to-play MMORPGs, which that stands for Massive Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. And those are becoming more and more popular to the day. So I think that's super cool. He's also backpacked through Europe. He's even appeared on MTV's The Grind, Spring Break Edition, and he's currently finishing his first cyber thriller novel. So today we're going to talk a lot about Jehmi's latest endeavor, which is called Get Bound, and many topics related to choosing yourself, following your passion, and creating the life you want. With a track record like this, Jehmi has also experienced failure along his journey. During this episode, we will discover what Jehmi took from those times and what he kind of recommends we all do, during our major setbacks. So, without further ado, I am beyond excited to bring Jehmi on. I hope that you guys can enjoy the episode as much as I enjoy putting it out there for you. If you guys have any feedback, any criticism, comments, complaints, suggestions, please, 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 I would love to hear any bit of feedback you guys have to offer. So enjoy this show, and thank you guys again for tuning in to the Kyle Hartman Project. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 24. I'm here with Jehmi Ortiz. You've heard the introduction. The list is incredible of what this man has accomplished. We want to go back. Jehmi, I want to thank you so much, first of all, for coming on the show. It means a whole lot to me.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to talking here, and I love what you're doing with the project here.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to dig into a certain instance. So one thing that stuck out to me along this huge list of achievement, I'm always looking for value that we can bring to our listeners. And you mentioned a pretty hefty setback along your time in accomplishing a lot of the things you were doing. And I want to touch on that because I think that there's a lot of value there. So can you take us back to give us a brief rundown? I know that you're the VP at Jehmi. What was the company you were pouring your heart and soul into before?
Right. So that was called Sleepy Giant Entertainment, and it was based in Newport Beach, founded by Matt Hannes and David Lee. And Sleepy Giant was pretty famous in the gaming industry for back-end services for games to get an online game up and running, as well as the live operations services that they provided to manage customer service, moderation, and then they also had this amazing tech platform that you could hook into your customer service team. And so very forward-thinking, very entrepreneurial run company that just continued to grow and grow and grow. And so Sleepy Giant had been the company that helped me and Tyler Kim launch Atlus Online. So they came in, helped us build out the back end, helped us figure out exactly what we would need to do to hook into the website, and then eventually kind of run and operate this MMORPG called NeoSteam. And so I worked with them for a couple of years while I was at Atlus Online to get that up and running. Just loved the guys, super cool vibe. I mean, the office was right off the water down there, and
wow.
They both were from Chicago, so there was a very good feel to that. And then everybody you met or worked with was super cool, super smart. And so eventually, after I had done what I felt like I needed to do with Atlus Online, I then moved over to Sleepy Giant to come in and help them do similar game operation, customer service services, and provide them to their various clients, which included Activision and Fox Entertainment. So when I got there, it felt like this is what I had been working toward, these past 5, 6, 7 years, was to kind of get to this place where I had some freedom, some flexibility. I could kind of put together my own programs, work with these cool people, and work with these great companies. And so, I put my whole heart and soul into it. I was helping out with HR. I was helping out with marketing. I set up something called Sleepy Hours so we could all hang out on Fridays, and drink beers, get to know each other.
Nice.
So I felt like, it was really a part of who I was and what I was doing, and just absolutely loved it. And so, things were great the first year, second year, third year, and then the company took on some investment, and then there were more people on the board, and then the company started kind of moving in these different directions of trying to maybe do more in gaming or focus more in tech, and kind of lost its identity. So as I moved around with it, right? So helped with marketing, tried to produce content, tried to get the company better known, and then we moved into, the industry itself went from online games to Facebook games, social games to then mobile games, and so it was a ton of change within the industry itself. And when it got to the point of the company either going in the way of games or going in just all in on the tech, the company went in on tech. And so
you kind of lost.
So I was odd man out.
Oh.
I hung out for as long as I could, right? So I started being the marketing side for the tech, which they renamed, and then the company continued to get stripped down further and further, just to the tech team, which was the value add for the company, and it was probably the right business decision. I mean, obviously, because they rebranded, and then they were acquired by Swerve. So
got you.
So it worked out if you were on that side, but it came down to where more and more people were getting let go, and we got called in to this board meeting. And I remember coming back and talking to my wife about how I presented what we were doing in marketing, the questions I was getting, and she said, "Doesn't to her it sounded weird. I mean, she's not in business, she's a professor, but it didn't sound right to her. Although I think I had those rose-colored glasses on, where I was like, I mean, there's no way they're gonna let go of me, right? I've just been here for so long, and
you poured everything into it. You stayed loyal.
I loved it
to the core. So you eventually got fired from the job there, or
So I get one day, and I know he fought for me, and I know it wasn't the co-founder's decision, but. So one day I get called in, and I was told there were two lists: people that were staying, people that were going, and I was on the latter. And it was so shocking to me to hear that, and to kind of, I wasn't able to digest it. I was told around 11 o'clock that I went out for lunch at noon, and and I literally drove around in circles around Newport Beach. I didn't eat. I didn't know where to go, and I eventually just went home.
Dang.
And it was just so shocking to my system and my identity, and like what I felt I had been building up to and what I'd been doing.
So what time frame was this? I mean, where were you? What point were you at in your life when this all went down? I mean, it seems like you were pretty well established within your adulthood and your life. So, I mean, this had to be pretty detrimental to what you thought you had going.
Totally. 10 years into to my career, a year into
wow.
My daughter was a year old. My wife and I had been married for 10 years, and so
wow.
Like, pretty established, like VP of whatever the current job title, like operations, marketing, like whatever it was at the time.
Just thought sure as shit that you weren't like, gonna get the can.
Main provider for the family, and so when I came home, I talked to my wife and I let her know, and her reaction was that's great because it's really hard, having 1 year old and her having a full career. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that's an interesting take, but it's when you lose what you think is your identity and your value of what you're bringing every day, these people that you're talking with and seeing, and just your day to day, you go from that to nothing. I mean, not nothing because you're taking care of a 1 year old, but it's so different.
It comes to a dead stop. Yeah.
I really felt like I needed to take a look at. And then the first thing you think of is like, well, what am I going to do next? Like
exactly. Yeah.
What can I do?
That's what I was going to ask you is, so what sort of things, I guess, give me a rundown of what things you did that were successful in bouncing back from this. I mean, what things were you telling yourself? Yeah. I mean, did you go through a period of time where you were down in the dumps? I mean, run us through that.
Yeah, I think it probably was in shock. You kind of go through the cycle of like being in shock, and then you kind of
wanting to dwell.
Yeah, a little bit, and then for me, like the first turn is like, okay, so you like go online, you look up like rebuilding your career or like rebranding yourself, and there's all these things you should do, like write all these lists and like what do you want to do and this and that, and those things are great, but I really just had to kind of sit and absorb it. I just had to fully be in like that's done, right? Like you're not going back to that office and you have to be here and you have to figure out like
what's next.
What's next? What's the advantage of it? And the advantage was being able to be more plugged into the family to help my wife out, and then to figure out how do I then get back to bringing some income in, because you still have to bring some money in.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the heart of talking with my wife about my career and what got me excited, and as we talked about all these different things, a lot of it wasn't these necessarily building. I'm pretty good at kind of helping somebody build something, right? So the operations, whatever needs to be done, I'll figure it out. But what I was passionate about from the very start was gaming. Writing for games, localizing these games, like writing the dialogue, writing the stories behind it,
creating them.
Yeah, I think I had gotten so far away from creating something on the operations side that I really lost it. Like
everything was just so about business. I mean, go.
Yeah,
shove it out.
And I think that's and I think some of us that have kind of a bit of both. It's easy for that to win out because sitting down at that blank page is hard, right? But
exactly,
filling out a spreadsheet, I mean, those are just numbers, and so I'd gotten so far away from what was really fulfilling, which was creating, that I realized this is something I wanted to do. And so I would say it was like 3 or 4 months after being let go, I really realized that that's what I wanted to be. And so first thing I'm
sorry, I was going to ask, what are some of the things that you did to like understand that? I mean, self-awareness obviously plays such a major factor, but if somebody is going through a situation where they have something like this happen, if it's almost like a midlife crisis situation, and it sends them through the ringer, what are some of the things they can focus on within themselves to finally see through the chaos at what they really value and what they're really good at and what is going to be able to pull them up out of that slump they're in.
Yeah, I think the first thing I think is knowing, and you can either turn inside or if you're religious or if you have some type of foundation with family,
Mm-hmm.
you can realize that it's going to be okay, right? Like plenty of people, lose their job or something happens and they can't work, but it's going to be okay, right? So
right.
If you've worked before, you can get another job. You can do something as it needs to be, and that will give you that sense of like, okay, it's going to be okay.
Purpose.
The second thing is and the second thing is that it's easier at that point for somebody else to tell you kind of what you've been excited about, because when you talk to somebody, you can tell what they get excited about. You can tell what they're not excited about, and that can come through a spouse or friends. It can also come through. I look back on like LinkedIn recommendations of like what did people say about me? Like what was it that I was doing over these 10 years that people found value in, and that just kind of reassures you that that there's something out there. And then the more you dig into that, the more you dig into these people that have known you from those points, the more things are going to pop up. And the one thing that kept popping up for me was that creation, that like, you always wanted to write a book, but you didn't have the time, and like you loved localizing, even though that was at the beginning of your career, and you like you didn't like that was the least amount of money
right.
Like that type of thing is very interesting. It's like, I really did love that. Like I just got further and further away from it.
So what did you start doing then? What came from all of this? I mean, what did you turn out of all of this?
So my realization was that I had this strong network of people that I'd worked with before that I could turn to, one, just to talk to about these things, and
right.
then two, I mean, they were also doing things, right? And so if they were working at other companies, or if they were building other companies, maybe there was something there for me. And so the first person I turned to was my first boss at Atlus when I first started, which was localizing games, was Bill Alexander. So I reached out for him for coffee, and I said, hey, like I'm in this transition and looking to do some freelancing, right? And so he was like, oh, that's great. We're kind of using freelancers here and there. I'd love to have you come back in and do some games, and that was right before. So he called me back, and right before Christmas of that year, which was 2014. He said, we've got a project starting the beginning of the year in 2015. You'd be great on it. You can help mentor these other guys, and I think we'd love to have you. And so,
wow.
So that kind of like
that had to boost you up a little bit to know that your value is still very, very much there.
Yeah, it was a huge like uplifting moment for me because of the timing going into the holidays, and because of this is a guy I love to work with, right? And so
nice.
The more you kind of think about it, you're like, you get a certain point in your career as you get older, you're like, I really just want to work with people I like. It's hard to do in the beginning, because you're just trying to figure it out. But yeah, so what I thought then was like, well, I worked. What was the constant there? Is I just worked hard. When I went to Atlus, I edited like books, right? Like books in a library on my first game, and like I don't know if anybody was going to read them, but I was going to write the best, rewrite of that book and any, like these little snippets and things like that.
Yeah.
And, hey, if they need somebody to QA the game, I'll come in on Saturdays. And so that work ethic, I said, okay, so Bill found value. He enjoyed working with me. That's great. So then I started reaching back out to other people I worked with. I reached out to Tyler Kim, who I'd done, with Atlus Online. He was doing a little things here and there. So I talked with him. I talked with David Lee. He had some things going on, or was introducing me to people to see. And so I kept doing that. And at that time was when Matt had started Abound, which was exactly, we had talked a little bit about before, his idea for that of this kind of mobile storytelling and audio mixed with art, and you kind of put a source book around it, so like the world, and you can really dive in.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's
me.
what I want to be doing.
Right.
That's awesome, right?
And
but
now, Get Bound is an app, right?
Yeah, so Bound is an app. It's on iOS now, and you can download it, and you can listen to. We've got 6 or 7 series on there right now.
Okay.
That you can listen to or read the first few episodes for free, and then you can either wait on a timer to listen to more, or you can purchase the whole season. And it's set up in 3, 4, 5 minute increments for each chapter, which we call an episode. And then
that's
a certain number of episodes in a season, and the season tells a story. Just like a Netflix show, it tells a story over a season, and there's a long arc over the 6 or 7 seasons that the story contains.
That's what I was going to say. I was really excited to talk about it because with how popular all these apps are for watching shows and movies, when I looked at your stuff and looked more into Bound, that was what appealed to me. So they break down these stories that, people actually write and create, and they turn them into sort of a mini series with episodes and the cool thing is you guys offer them in audio as well, because obviously with my love for the podcast, and I just think audio is such a great way to do passive content, and so I think the app is completely genius.
Awesome.
What do you guys what's the focus as far as what type of books, what type of writing, what type of storytelling could people expect to see there?
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it. So the genres really focus on fantasy, sci-fi, and thrillers, right? Kind of like the cool stuff, like and we're going to add in some different types of genres just to see what people like, but it really centers around that, and it's focused on. So we've got some IP from games, and then we're also having creators come in and write specifically for the app itself. And
okay.
So the idea is that there's this universe, this world that the stories are told in, but the stories themselves are kind of like scenes put together, right? So it would tell you kind of like slow roll the story within the episodes, and then if you wanted more detail, you can dig into the source book that'll tell you more about that character, where he's from. If it's like an investigative story, you'll learn some more about the case.
That's so interesting.
And those entries are kind of unlocked. So if you finish episode 1, you've met this guy, he's investigating this murder. You unlock like a newspaper within that place, and then the newspaper is kind of following the case in parallel as he's kind of going and talking, and so you're kind of getting like side stories or like different views, right?
Wow.
And so originally the focus was audio, because Matt and I were both listening to these Star Wars audiobooks, and particularly the Darth Vader kind of connection book between episode.
You're gonna hate me. You're gonna hate me. I've never seen Star Wars.
Oh my gosh!
I'm one of those guys, but I appreciate the value of it, though. I know the impact it's had on our world.
No, I get it. But the idea was that in general, so Star Wars has a huge world, right? Like, it's got all these like aliens, but when you're listening to this audiobook, so the audiobook's really good. It's well read, but there's sound effects with it, right? So there's like the ship opens, closes,
nice.
So that was very cool. But then, in Star Wars, they'll mention an alien species, but unless you're like super geeky into it, you can't picture that alien or that race or whatever. And so the idea from that was like, it's cool to have these stories. It would be great to have a source book, like very RPG style, that opens up so you can see what they look like, what planet they come from, things like that. And so it started as that, and then we're like, well, if you're gonna have audio, you're gonna have to have written the story anyway. So let's put that in, and then art was added in, kind of leads you into each episode. And then coming from gaming and coming from Sleepy Giant, we were like, well, it'd be great to have a community hooked right in, right?
Right.
And so you can swipe left to open up the source book as you're reading or listening, and then you can swipe right to open up a chat, and you can kind of post like, what's going to happen, or there's no way I haven't done that.
This is so sweet. All right, so we're coming up on just about 5 minutes left for the episode. I'm very excited about Bound. I hope you guys all go check it out. I'll post the website, getbound.io, below. Jehmi, I just want to ask you one last thing. So, for anybody who's going through life, no matter what age they are, and you know, goes through some major setback or a bunch of major setbacks, what would you say to them to help them to try to figure out their passion, sort of like you did, to be able to just keep conquering life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Appreciate it. I think I would first recommend that you read James Altucher's Choose Yourself. That book, for me, really kind of set the tone. I read it actually before getting let go at Sleepy Giant and didn't realize I should have been putting those thoughts in place. And that is before you get let go, right? So,
right.
And that is,
it didn't apply then, yeah.
That is, you know, there's a whole theory behind it of taking care of yourself and taking care of your family and loving people and connecting to your that network that you have and really getting straight from that. And then also, yeah, taking a look at what are you excited about? What would you want to do every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the theory is like, what would you want to do every day if you didn't get paid for it? You can do that. You're also going to have to work on other stuff, right, to get paid. And so that's what I did, right? So I found things that I was strong in, that I could do well, but didn't take me, like, I didn't have to like research how to do it. I've been doing it for so long. That pays the bills, and I enjoy it, and I love the people that I'd worked with before that I'm doing with it now. Then also, what is that passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then you that energy that you get from your loving your family, from taking care of yourself, from working out, from eating well.
Oh, it's so detrimental,
right? It springs you into being able to do those passion projects, whether it's writing or whether it's bound for me. And so then you really have to take control of that schedule.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, I'm like that may sound like no kidding, right? To a younger generation, 20s and like
nobody wants to do that, you know. In a sense.
But you can, and at any point, if you've had success in the past, or if there's something you've wanted to do, or there's something that's been on your mind, like you can figure out a way to do it, right? If I had applied for a job, like I'm at Bound for VP of Story Development, I wouldn't have gotten it because that's not what I had done. But I found a way to do it, right? That's either working with somebody. And if Bound hadn't come along, I could have just put up my own website and written stories or reached out. And so there's a way to do it if you really want to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's so rewarding, right? It's scary at first.
Yeah, you gotta break that fear initially.
Like, it's tiring, right? It's, like getting up at 4:30 and then writing and then getting your kid to school and then,
Yeah, by the way, Jehmi has an incredible morning routine, by the way. So I aspire to just accomplish things the way you do. But I completely agree with what you're saying because I've sort of found that, doing the things that interest me the most and the things that I truly value, some of those things I lost sight of in my early adulthood. But now that I'm kind of putting more focus back into them, I've just been extremely happier. And, when you have that visualization of who you are truly as a person and who you're going to be, and you hold to it, it's a beautiful thing.
I think we hold so much power, and it just can get dimmed if you're emails come in and mm-hmm. Kid cuts her hair, and you're like, I want to tell my wife, stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But scheduling in those dreams and putting it on your calendar and working on them, and you may find that's no longer a dream if you start working on something like that. But when it clicks, and you really have to fight for that time. That's what I'd say. You have to be thinking that the time is now. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to keep moving forward, and it's just a little bit every single day. And you're not as tired getting up at 4:30 if you're writing if I'm writing my cyber thriller, I'm totally into it. If I'm talking with an
mm-hmm.
author for Bound, if I'm jamming with Matt over beers about what kind of stories do we want, that's super exciting. And then finding a way to make it work, where I'm working with Jehmi and this interesting company that's parallels content distribution and putting content into Asia. Like there's a way you can do it, and it took me a long time. It didn't happen yesterday. It took me those 4 years of getting let go, figuring it out, working. Some stuff didn't work, right? Like I talked to a lot of people, and I did some consulting, and it was hard, and I had 2 game projects that overlapped, and I didn't see my wife for a few weeks. And then you got to go back in and re-nurture those relationships. You got to get your sleep. But if you want it, you can do it. And then you find people like you, Kyle, right? You find these people, this community of people that are doing cool stuff, and you support what they're doing. You follow them. We can follow a whole lot of people on
We got
Twitter,
about 10
social,
seconds
right?
here, Jamie. Sorry.
I just say go for it, man.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for being on this show. This has been an incredible episode of the Kyle Hartman